Jai Jagat, everybody. After a very, very energizing session that we had, I welcome you to this discussion on the title of which is A Paradigm Shift. The participants are respected Mrs. Manjula Jhunjhunwala. May I call her up on the stage? Miss Mariam Motamedi, I hope I've pronounced it correctly. Mrs. Archana Gaur and Dr. Sunita Gandhi. They would also be presenting in that order. Fine? I think we can move because there's another. Mariam, you come here, and Archana Gaur there. Yeah. And Dr. Sunita Gandhi. To begin with, I'd request Mrs. Manjula Jhunjhunwala to present. A brief introduction of, I've tried to cut down her CV to make a brief, it's up to you, here or there, wherever, yeah. She is a wonderful woman who has done it all. She is the founder and director of the Jingle Bell Nursery School Society, Faizabad, and you all must have heard of JB Academy in Faizabad. I was fortunate to visit her school some years ago, and she does think tremendously out of the box.
Hello. Hello.
She has done very innovative things at her school, and if I start reading her CV, she has been in education for the last over 30 years, I think. It's 40 years now. And she has she began as a nursery school, and now she has one of the best schools in Uttar Pradesh, CBSE schools in Uttar Pradesh, and results are very good, no doubt, but there's a lot of innovative things happening at the school. So over to Manjula ji to present on a paradigm shift. Thank you.
So with such an invigorating session with John, and yesterday the speakers from Singapore who told us about the government's effort in making education system stress-free in their country and how that has affected their PISA results. I had a similar experience when I had gone to Finland 2 years back. Their PISA results was also wonderful from many years, and their education system is so minimalistic. Their hours of work, the homework they give, and it's totally based on the trust they have, on the wonderful training of the teachers. And I can see the same thing in the Singapore teachers. So a big clap for the Singapore teachers that had presented yesterday. So I want to thank Sunita for inviting me to this roundtable conference. It has been a wonderful session till now, and I have always learned a lot from my association with her. And as she has requested me, I would like to now tell my story. So 40 years ago, 3 mothers, totally away from the learning of pedagogy and education, just wanted a school that is joyful for their 2 to 3-year-olds. And that is how this school came into being and evolved into the Jingle Bell School of Ayodhya that I'm presenting today. You can see the building of the school today. Our curriculum, pedagogy, and infrastructure transcends from our vision, which is joyful learning, to develop creative, innovative, responsible, positive, and sensitive leaders for a better world. And I would like to stress on joyful because that is underlying in all that we do, in our curriculum, in our infrastructure, in our pedagogy, everything. The school building is encompassed by a green and varied landscape with trees and plants that attract birds, butterflies, insects, and small animals like squirrel and snails. Well, all the educationists sitting here, as working with small children, will know how fond of animals children are and how even a small ant fascinates them, a little caterpillar they'll bring to the classroom. The topography is so landscaped that there is enough space and open grounds for the children to run, roll, climb, and also have organized games. Children experience with nature and responsibility for environment is unobtrusively woven in the curriculum. We believe nature is a great teacher, and children should be left free to interact with it in all seasons. These days, from last 2 years, we have adapted and implemented the forest kindergarten in our early years of learning very, very successfully, and the children just love it. The importance given to the physical fitness and outdoor play is sufficiently honed by 4 physical education staff and ample equipment. The campus contains 3 age-appropriate tire playgrounds named after an American educationist by the name Jimmy Jolly. He was an early childhood development expert, and he is the one who has designed these playgrounds for us. He introduced us to the importance of play, which according to him is more than equal to learning. Play is our brain's favorite way of learning. The structure contains a variety of swings, slides, climbing equipment so linked that the children can get on from one to another without getting down. The design takes care of safety, yet it is open-ended, challenging, and caters to the children's development, needs, interest, and age. The children are so fond of school and its outdoors that they are quite happy if they are left early in school or they are picked up late in school. In fact, if their parents or guardians come to pick them up, they will ask them to wait till the parents are absolutely tired of waiting and take them forcibly away from the playground. The sprawling building that houses classes nursery to class 5 is based on Bala, building as a learning aid. This is the brainchild of the architect couple, Kabir and Preeti Vajpayee. They feel the investment is maximum in terms of money and space in land and building. So, why should it be used as part of the learning and developmental tool? Hence, walls, floor, window grills, glass panes, fans, pillars, doors, outdoors, as well as semi-open and open spaces are created to be learning resource to engage the children. Every nook and corner of this building are interactive and developmental. Some of the design concepts that we are using, I would like to explain. Height chart next to a full-size mirror encourages comparison and understanding measurement. The railings on ramps become pipephones by simply leaving the two ends open. The children can experience movement of sound. The circular pillars show the cyclic nature of life, moon, water, etc. The window grills contain abacus, fractions, shapes, lines, etc. The doors can be used to explain angles. While ascending and descending the staircase, the students can experience the nature of numbers. Various board games are readily available on the floors. There are writing surfaces on the walls and floors with lines, grids, and dots. And we definitely encourage children to write on walls as well as floors. The classroom has plan of room to understand how and why of mapping. There are tiles with pattern embossed which the children use to trace on paper by shading with pencil. Patterns of folk art, expression, optical illusion stimulate children's imagination. Goltara is used by students for practicing various language and maths operations. Number line, where the children physically practice maths activities such as counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication. Apart from those mentioned here, there are many more Bala elements in the building. Now we come to the classrooms. They are designed and equipped and kept ready for the learning needs of the children. It is print-rich and full of display material related to the academic program in progress. The pre-primary classes house areas divided into library, fantasy, manipulative, cutting pasting, drawing painting, EPL, sensorial, blocks, and clay work. The children do activities in these areas in groups or individually. The primary classes have, these are the primary classes, they have the library in their classroom, but within each cluster of classrooms, sections, there is age-specific activity center, which has fully furnished areas for block play, scientific experiments, shopping experience, indoor games, craft work, and manipulative games. The students visit one period daily. In these areas, they have total autonomy. Kitchen. You can see the children cooking dishes, but there is a hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is an interactive opportunity to practice and imbibe mathematical operations, vocabulary, language development, scientific learning. The children love this because there is instant gratification. Also, the homework is voluntary and self-directed because these children, when they go home, they like to prepare the dishes they learned in school for their family and their neighbors, friends. Well, the computer class, where the curriculum is 100% practical and essentially utility-based. It is connected with the ongoing syllabus. There is absolutely no theory or written work. Now, this is our latest and the most popular addition. This is called the T-Lab, the Tinkering Lab, not the Atal Tinkering Lab, but this is the Tinkering Lab that has been designed by Mr. Pramod Mathil for us. It is equipped with ample tools and loose material. The students plan and decide what they would like to create. They give their proposal to the bank within the Tinkering Lab and take loan, rent the equipment and buy material, construct as per their plan, present at creation the audience, that is their schoolmates, the classmates, decide the value which proves their success. There is total autonomy given for experimenting. Children's point of view is completely respected, especially in this tinkering lab. Ample space, time, and resource is given for aesthetic training of the students so that they evolve into wholesome personality. Hence, we have staff and equipment for dance, vocal, and instrumental music, drawing and painting, craft work. Almost 30% weightage in the timetable is given to performing and visual arts. Each child gets opportunity to perform on stage several times during the session. The children are exposed to Speak-Mackey programs conducted by international level artists. Now, this is our resource center. 3 qualified and competent staff members work round the clock in a well-stocked resource center to prepare teaching learning material, research, resources, and manage the stock in the classroom. The resource center is also teacher center to congregate, discuss, and plan for the teaching assignments and activities. The day's routine and specially activities are designed to keep the curriculum relevant and joyful, and we believe that learning must make sense to the students in order to be effective and meaningful. Jingle Bell School is a strong advocate of the project approach. This is based on integrated thematic learning. The topic selected is from the larger theme being covered in the environmental science syllabus. It has to be such that can be experienced at the local level. So, if the class is studying animals, they might take cow or dog as the project topic. Essential features of the study are field trips, discussions, research, display, and lots of craft material, writing work is done. They also meet resource people. The topic is studied combining all the subjects. This is our system of assessment. No formal exams are conducted. However, the assessment in the form of reviews and diagnostic tests are taken at regular intervals. They are based on the concept covered. The information regarding these tests and the results are not given to the guardians. The sole purpose is to analyze and evaluate the pedagogy and plan for the future programs. Based on the results, children with learning difficulties are identified and provided with remedial program under trained professionals. Also, orientation training program and refresher courses are provided to the teaching staff wherever lacuna is identified. Hence, there is no stress of result, performance, comparison, preparing for exam, etc. The teaching staff and support staff of the school needs to have deep understanding of child psychology and development. They need to have love, care, and respect for the children, and zest for their work. The why and how of the pedagogy and system followed by the school needs to be deeply ingrained. For this, JBNS Society runs a 9-month course where the student teachers get almost 6 months of practical exposure. We select our teachers from this course. Every year, teachers help staff, parents, as well as the drivers of the vehicle who bring the children to school to undergo a workshop and training. And since there's paucity of time and we have other speakers on the stage, I would like to end up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful gist that you provided, of which gave us a bird's eye view of your school and all the great things that you're doing there. Would you all want to pose any questions to the presenter? Any questions for the presenter about her school or, yes, ma'am? There, does somebody want to? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Do we have a hand mic, which portable mic that can go there, cordless? Somebody. Okay.
Good morning, ma'am.
Can we visit the school?
Me
Yeah.
too.
So,
It's in Faizabad. If you're staying longer or depending on, you can fix up a visit with ma'am when
Okay.
she is down.
okay, fine. Thank you.
I'm sure she would welcome visitors, and because we were one of the earlier ones who went and we learned so much. Thank you, ma'am. We'll take all the questions. Sorry, we are running.
I have just one question.
Okay.
The last thing that ma'am was elaborating on, that there is a 9-month course of training for the teachers where there is interaction with drivers, conductors, other helpers. Can you please elaborate a little more on that?
On, excuse me, come again?
At the end, you talked about the teachers are given a 9-month,
Okay.
you select teachers for
All
9-month
right.
training.
So
on
we
that.
have developed a course which we call JB Teachers Training Course, and it is a 9-month course. We give a diploma at the end of it, and the whole course, the pedagogy of is designed on the systems that we follow in Jingle Bell School. It's pretty popular in Faizabad, and we get about 60 students, and everyone invariably gets a job. We are able to take about 5 or 6 of them, but most of the others have great demand in the town, and they all are picked up and given more salary than the other teachers that they take. Yeah, anything more on it?
I think we could, in case you have any more questions, we would like to take all the questions at the end of the session because we are running a little late. Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mariam Motamedi, a young educationist from America. Please, you would like to take the... She has done her bachelor's in international studies, and she has worked with the US Department of Education. She has worked with the Institute of Education in Washington, D.C., and the College Consortium for International Studies. Interestingly, she's here with City Montessori School for a year and working on the Virtues Project, a project which she introduced in City Montessori School along with Dara Feldman sometime last year, and 5 of our campuses of City Montessori School have initiated themselves in the project, and she's the coordinator for the project. Over to Mariam. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mrs. Basu, for the warm welcome. I want to thank Mrs. Sunita Gandhi for inviting me here to speak with you all. Everything that I've heard so far has been so inspiring and informative, and I'm so grateful to be here to share the little that I know, as well as learn from all of you. As Mrs. Basu shared, I'm here from the US. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, but I came to City Montessori School for the first time in June to work specifically on the Virtues Project. By a show of hand, has anyone heard of the Virtues Project before? Raise your hand if maybe you have. No. So the Virtues Project, to give a brief introduction before I speak specifically about the Virtues Project at City Montessori School, the Virtues Project is an organization that was founded about 30 years ago in the United States. So it was founded by 3 educationists, a child psychologist, and 2 former teachers and education experts, basically in response to a number of problems they saw in their schools and in their students. They found that the education that was being provided, while it was demanding and academic, it was teaching maths and science, it was not teaching their students how to develop their character. It was not teaching them how to develop soft skills of character that truly define whether you're successful or not. For example, cooperation, generosity, justice, being caring, considerate, these sorts of qualities. The Virtues Project was then created by these 3 individuals and has been implemented in over 100 countries around the world. So there's 5 strategies associated with the Virtues Project. Here at City Montessori School, we've been primarily focused on one of these strategies, called the language of the virtues. And what that means is that in the very language we speak, we are able to either support our students in developing their characters or not. So for example, if you have a child and you recognize them sharing in the classroom, you can either not acknowledge it because you're too busy doing something else. You can acknowledge it in a superficial way, where you say something like, "Good job," and nothing else. Good job for what? For that quality that they're demonstrating, the quality of generosity. So instead of acknowledging in a superficial way, you can say, "Thank you for your generosity and the way you shared with the others in your class or with your peers." Using this sort of language, you help students identify in themselves their strength virtues, the ones that they're good at, the ones they're demonstrating, and their growth virtues, the ones that they need to continue to hone and to work on. Another example, when you see a child is perhaps struggling through a task, our instinct would be, "Okay, hurry up, you can do it, come on," right? Why aren't they doing it faster? We might be thinking in our head, and you try and be encouraging, but again, as a teacher, you're frantic, you're trying to run a classroom. So what can you say to a student that allows them to recognize a virtue in themselves that they can call on? The virtue in this case might be determination. So you say to the student, instead of, "Come on, you can do it," which they can, you perhaps add a virtue into that. "Wow, I see your determination working so hard to complete the task." Do you see kind of how this elevates the language that we use with students? It enables them to be a little bit more independent, to think a little bit more deeply. So this is the baseline, and if you have any further questions or want further examples, we can talk about those, but I think with those 2 examples, hopefully you get a sense of what it is and why it would be important in our classrooms, given our context. So, here at CMS, we had a Virtues Project expert, we can say. Her name is Ms. Dara Feldman. She's from the Washington, D.C. area, also of the United States. And she's been working with the Virtues Project for about 15 years now. She's traveled all over the world supporting schools in the implementation and in the training of the teachers to use this language. and in the implementation. She sometimes stays at schools for longer periods of time to support teachers in making sure that they get all of the resources that they need, so that this isn't a burden on them, but it's something exciting and energizing. She stays with them. So she's been to City Montessori School twice. She's trained about 500 to 600 teachers. In January of 2019 and in June of 2019. After coming in June, City Montessori School, as a leader in moral education, saw the importance of this and saw the importance of not having it as a one-off training, but having it as a part of a longer process. And so that's what I'm here for the course of 1 year, to ensure that all of the teachers who want to use this language, who want to transform their classrooms positively, have everything that they need to do it. So that moral education we can see as something more than a block on the timetable, but we can see it as the very way that we speak with the children. That's how you morally educate and influence your kids. So we've had a few challenges in doing this. We haven't had a challenge in a lack of enthusiasm. All of the teachers that I've interacted with have been either super enthusiastic, mildly enthusiastic, or okay with it. They kind of get it, but they're worried about other things. I'm very grateful that because CMS has for so long placed an importance on moral education, my job was easy. I didn't have to convince the teachers why this was important. They got it. And many of them, even before I came in to support with specific strategies for implementation, had begun of their own accord putting up virtues posters in their classrooms, changing the language that they used, creating focus groups where the teachers are consulting amongst themselves about the behavior problems that they're having and how they can support their students. All of these sorts of things. We had one campus named this year the Year of Compassion. They wear badges with virtues on them. The teachers are giving each other virtues acknowledgements where when one teacher notices another being extremely patient, for example, they write, "Thank you for being so patient," and they sign their name on it. They're elevating the atmosphere. So that wasn't a challenge. One of the primary challenges has been implementing this at scale, meaning managing a culture shift across a huge institution. So at City Montessori School now, I'm sure you're getting the sense more and more after having been here for a few days, it's very large, right? We have thousands of teachers, 57,000 students, and to change something as fundamental as the way every teacher is speaking with students is very difficult. So the way we tried to solve this challenge was choosing to focus on 5 campuses. And rather than view this process as a top-down approach in which the head office or myself or the principal is instructing the teachers on what to do, the teachers themselves are kind of organically finding leaders to act as Virtues Project coordinators on their campuses. And they plan the meetings, they address the needs, and then they simply relay those needs to the people up top so that we can provide whatever they need. But really, the teachers are the innovators. The second challenge is, how do you measure a culture shift? How do you measure changes in the language in thousands of classrooms? And what we found is that you can't expect to have someone in every classroom, right? That was kind of one of our first strategies. What if I go into classrooms and listen to the teachers and try and write evaluations and work with them? And again, the teachers were not opposed to this idea. They were open to it. Some of them hosted me in their classrooms, but we soon realized this is impossible to do at scale. So instead what we're doing, and in fact what we'll be implementing next week, it's something that we've devised under the advice of Mrs. Sunita Gandhi as well as some of the management of City Montessori School, is first doing a baseline questionnaire with the students. So we're focusing right now on primary students. That's or pre-primary to primary. So the very smallest kids at 3 to 4 years old up to the 5th graders in class 5. The questionnaire that we're formulating will be focused on the kids out of this age group who can best share what's on their mind, who can, speak the best English and really write and share deep explanations. And the questionnaire will kind of be twofold, two different purposes. So one is we're going to be asking the students questions where they can write everything they want. It's free form, open-ended. It allows them to be creative. It allows them to think deeply about their own reality and their classrooms and the way the teachers are dealing with them. So that open-ended part is asking questions like, what language does your teacher use with you that makes you feel valued? Write some of these. What language does your teacher use with you that makes you feel ashamed or fearful? Because really, even if we instruct kids and we are not careful to do it in the most loving way, we'll all remember, and we've seen in our kids, what that elicits is a feeling of shame or guilt. So we're trying to be very specific with our language. And we're asking them to write the phrases that their teachers use. And then we're asking close-ended questions, where we ask them on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being I don't agree at all, 5 being I very strongly agree, to rate different things. So for example, the statement, I feel my teacher cares about my moral development. Do you strongly disagree? Do you strongly agree? Or somewhere in between? It's something perhaps the students have never thought of before, but does my teacher care about my moral development? We might also ask a question like, I feel my teacher only cares about my marks. And they can say whether they agree or disagree. And again, questions about the impact that they feel from the instruction they're receiving. So, I feel encouraged by my teachers. I feel nervous around my teachers. And so hopefully, as we go to enough campuses, as we get enough feedback from students, we'll be able to recognize patterns. And we'll have a lot of examples of the language that teachers are using and how that's impacting the students. And so then what we're going to do is not take the evaluation inspection thing that will, scare the teachers. Instead, what we're going to do is meet with them, keeping the environment fun, enthusiastic, light, acknowledging that it's very challenging to remain positive and virtuous when you have 50 students in a classroom and some of them are shouting in the corner, some of them are trying to jump out of the window, you have to get them to certain places in the curriculum. Recognizing all of that and supporting them nonetheless. So we're going to be meeting with them in those sorts of environments to review the language that they're using and working with them to create specific phrases that they can use. So one example of a phrase we're trying to correct. In the morning assemblies at City Montessori School, you may have a room of, let's say, 200 children. And the morning assemblies provide a very valuable opportunity to interact with many, many kids. In these assemblies, you may have, a teacher at the front saying something like, be quiet, stand still, don't move, why are you talking, why aren't you groomed? And again, perhaps this language worked for a time, but now we're trying to modernize. Now we're trying to recognize our students as, able to respond to more than just naming and shaming. So instead of sit still, be quiet, or rather stand still, please be orderly and keep your hands at your side. You're calling them to the virtue of orderliness. And instantly we've seen when you change the phrasing, all of a sudden students do want to be orderly. They didn't want to listen to you when you were yelling at them to stand still, but they want to be orderly. Please be considerate of your classmate on stage who's leading the school prayer. Oh, yeah, I want to be considerate. And all of a sudden they're listening. So we've found great success so far. There are a number of things we're still working on. We're still at the very beginning of this process. I personally will be here until next August at City Montessori School, and I hope that all of the work with the Virtues Project continues on far after I leave. I'm sure it will, because it's really been taken into the hearts of the management of the school, of the folks at head office, and into all of the teachers that I've met. That being said, I think that's all I have to share for the time being, unless there's any questions. I know we're running short on time, so if we want to meet up individually and have questions later, we can do that as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mariam. If you have any questions, the speakers would be coming down amongst you all. So during the tea break and otherwise when you're networking time, you can definitely speak to them. Yeah. Ma'am would like to ask.
Instead of saying, be quiet, or why are you talking, what we should say? What we teachers should say, instead of saying, be quiet, why are you talking? You know, you have to be disciplined. What phrases we should, use?
Well, thank you for the question. The goal of the teacher is to recognize what virtue is missing. So if the virtue missing is self-discipline, you specifically name that virtue. So you say, students, please be self-disciplined and wait until the period is over before you get up. Or it might be courtesy, that they're using too much space, they're being too loud, they're knocking into the kids next to them, and so you ask them to call on the virtue of courtesy. Please be courteous and mind the space you're using. Or please be courteous and stay quiet. It might be the virtue of consideration, of respectfulness, the virtue of obedience, any of these. And sometimes it helps if you have younger kids to call it one thing. Because if you use too many virtues, it's too confusing. So you can just stick to one. With the older kids, it's helpful to use different ones. So one day, you can focus on consideration. The other day, you can focus on respect. And that way, they understand that their actions, they're either demonstrating a whole lot of virtues or not quite as many. They'll understand what the virtues really mean in practice.
I have not quite followed. When they are making noise, what virtue we should, practice?
So you ask them, please be courteous and stay quiet. Or please demonstrate obedience and stay quiet. Please be respectful and don't talk until the period is over.
Respectfulness and courtesy and
Obedience.
obedience, yes.
Yeah, for example.
Obedience and courtesy and
Respectfulness.
respect. So in this way, we should talk. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you so
Good
much,
morning,
Mariam. Excuse me, can we take all the questions at the end of the session because we are running terribly late? You will get a chance to address your query.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In case you are unable to address your query and get an answer during the session, because at the end of all the 4 speakers, we'd be giving a short 5-minute question answer session. You all are requested to meet the speakers through the Ed Leadership Conference and during networking time in the evenings, dinner time, etc. Yeah. And you can also address your question to a specific speaker and give it there at the help desk. So she could collect them with your name, of course, and the school that you belong to. So as and when we get time, they would be answered. Thank you so much. We move on to our third speaker, Archana Gaur, who is the principal of City International School, Indranagar. She has been a senior coordinator at City Montessori School, Kanpur Road, and has been a counselor also. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, for inviting me here. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Basu, ma'am. Stress, stress, and stress. That gives more stress. We are here to talk about stress-free education. With a little twist, if I say this, stress is free with education. As if there are many offers in the market, we can, like one thing is buy two, get one free. So similarly, we can say stress is free with education. But then, if we lower down our expectations a little, don't you think the stress will lower down? Why do we expect perfection? Why not to look beyond imperfections? Why not to keep our expectations little lower than 100%? So I'm here to speak about the happiness and well-being. We as teachers, we as educators can play a vital role in maintaining well-being, in giving well-being to the well-being of the students. Today's world demands, just a minute, the last slide, the previous slide. Now, how many of you can read, observe these children and read the psychology behind them, behind their expression, the way they are reading their book, they are sharing the book? Most of you can. You all are psychologists. You have a psychologist in yourself. Maybe that you have not studied psychology as a different subject. I wish everybody could have. But still, after 1 or 2 years of teaching experience, everybody somehow consciously, unconsciously get into it. And so you can very well analyze this situation, how the children are engrossed in, the two kids are engrossed in one book, reading and sharing. So this is well-being, this is happiness. Today's world demands from the education system quality of experience that produces a different outcome. See the happiness on the face of the teacher. See the hope, the dream in the child's eyes, the way he is welcomed to the class. The experience of the school is failing to help them succeed more. In general, I am talking about. Quality of education includes giving children a pleasant experience. Everybody, each of us make lots of efforts throughout the day, throughout the weeks, years, to make them happy, to give them pleasant experience. We love our children coming to school happily, going back from school happily. Even the parents love to see them coming happy back to home. Isn't it? As a parent, you also want your children to come happy from school. So this is a pleasant experience that we all are looking forward to. Free yourself. You are the only one that knows what will make them happy. Yes, teachers, no book, no strategy, no method can give you a definite prescription, do this, 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 and this is the outcome. Psychology is about individual differences. No two individuals, even the identical twins, have different mindset, have same mindset, have same psychology. So you know how to read the psychology of your children. Free yourself, feel yourself free. See what is the psychology of your child. Read it, observe the child, and do it accordingly. You are the master in that. Being happy is something that each of us determines. It is not something that we find out of ourselves. It is within us and by our choice. Being happy does not mean everything is perfect. It means you have decided to look beyond imperfections. Psychology is the scientific study of the human mind. It affects behavior in a given context. Now you can see in this picture, they have created something. They have made a handcrafted puppet. But the happiness on their face, every child has a different expression of happiness. And there is no control over it. They are free. They have created something. So this is how we, leave an impact on their psychology. Give them more and more of space to create. Most of the higher education courses include the understanding of psychology in the curriculum. My perspective, now I'm coming to my main focus. My perspective of seeing this is that the education system finally realizes that when students move into society, they are showing dishonesty, insincerity, pessimism, and envious behavior. What did we miss in 12 years of education? 12 years of education from class 1 to class 12. We need to refresh our curriculum. We need to update our curriculum. We teach them different subjects. We teach them mathematics, biology, we teach them science, but then what we don't teach, where did we go wrong? Mathematically and biologically, we have 10 fingers. You all have 10 fingers? Anybody who has got more than 10 fingers? No. But psychologically, we have 11. Do you know how our children think so? Everybody can count the fingers as we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But psychology, how the children count it and make it 11, let's see. 10, 9, everybody can see here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, plus 5. How much it is? 11. So this is a psychology, this is the twist of the psychology that the children use, the human mind uses to fail mathematics. Gravitational law fails if a human being is not in the mindset to throw the ball in the first place. Everybody knows law of gravitation. Whenever you throw a ball up, because of the gravity, it comes down. But supposedly, I am not ready to throw a ball today. I refuse. Can this law work? No. So again, the psychology is the basis of the law of gravitation. Then science cannot prove cause and effect relation. The science is all about cause and effect relation. So if the mindset is not there, if we are not ready to do that, there is no law, science can prevail. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is another law, Newton's law, and we all know it. But if the first person does not initiate any action, can there be a reaction? No. So again, the psychology is the basis of Newton's law. So who is the cause of the cause? In the cause and effect relation. No 1 + 1 can become 2 if either of the two is not ready to move. There are layers in human mind. The conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious. So the psychology, the feeling within, the human factor is so desperately missing in our education. After doing harm for 12 years, perhaps in ignorance, we realize at the higher secondary or undergraduate level, and then we teach them psychology. You all must be knowing that from class 11, we give psychology as an optional subject. So something which is very necessary to be incorporated in the beginning is coming at the end. Protection is better than cure, but cure after the injury is done by providing behavioral sciences at the end rather than at the source, and that too as an optional subject, big question mark. Availability of the behavioral counselors at the school level is an excellent effort, but does it reach to every child? But when the subject is a human being and each subject is different, then I propose each teacher to be a psychologist, a trained counselor, and should undergo regular training to upgrade themselves in these ways. Irony of the education system is the subject which should come in the beginning is optional even at the end too. We can be a good catalyst. The school teachers and the young people must be active in leading change. Teaching is a work of heart. To nurture young change makers, we need to refocus our attention and effort in the schools, and this requires the willingness and leadership of those who work in them. To change the practice of education, we need to change the mindset across the system. We at CIS try through various activities to provide an experience of growth mindset, which is an important part of the education psychology. For example, we do not focus on the summative mark that classifies children as weak or strong. Assessments, we try to fully integrate a broader education in all we do. Saturday activity is the part of our curriculum. These are the few glimpses from Saturday activities. Some of them which we could show, which we had shown in the cultural evening in the cultural program last evening. For the happiness and well-being of the teachers, we train them over the year at regular intervals. In fact, every Saturday, we have a meeting for this purpose. Please cast your vote. Those who agree with my opinion, just raise your hand that psychology should be included from grade 3 or maybe grade 5 as 1 or 2 chapters in social studies. That's so good. Everybody agrees to it, and we expect that sometime maybe we may approach the board and request the board for including these chapters in social studies. A school is a lighthouse. This is our Global Dream project. Under this project, we are determined to teach illiterate, poor children of our nearby slums. We aim to take into this project 360-degree of our school campus, 5 kilometers of 360-degree angles. We are educating nearby slums under the umbrella of Devi Sansthan. And we send the bus to the slums to pick the children, give them the food so that they share the same feeling as the normal children they do. We give them the food. We have the students volunteers. These are the students volunteers who teach the children on regular basis. 1 period is allotted. So they have each class, the CIS student volunteer has, the turn-wise they have a timetable to teach these poor children. Then in order to make emotional quotient of the teachers is strong, we give them trainings at regular intervals under the umbrella of Global Education Training Institute, Getty. This is a 6-month program in which the teachers, the trainees, they do their own researches, they make hypotheses, do their own interventions, own researches, and they make scientific research, proven research to be implemented when they act as a teacher. Even our teachers, they do interventions in their day-to-day classrooms. All is displayed here. You please go and visit each counter, see each softboard, the processes that we follow in our curriculum, in our school, it is all displayed there. Teachers are at computer desk with their PPTs. Please go and study, see what work, what interventions, how much effort we put to make children happy for the well-being of the children. Thank you so much. Here I end, and thanks for your vote for psychology to be included in the curriculum from grade 3 or 5 onwards. Thank you so much.
Last but not the least, we have Dr. Sunita Gandhi, the convener of this conference, to present her views on a paradigm shift. Dr. Sunita is an educationist of the year 2014 and a visionary of Uttar Pradesh 2017. She is founder of the Council for Global Education USA, Global Education and Training Institute, and Devi Sanstha. She is also founder, Education Society of Iceland. Her efforts in education have expanded a vast range from the bottom-up grassroots levels in Indian slums and villages through an NGO to top-down policy work with the World Bank. Her research work in Iceland, UK, and India mainstreams the principle of compete with yourself. She has many projects to her credit: Target Plus Education, her latest project Global Dream, etc. Over to Dr. Sunita.
Thank you. Jai Jagat, everyone. I hope you're comfortable. I think I'll try to make it fast. I'm covering for Shmita as well, in sense of presenting to you what we have done at City Montessori School. As a case in point, there are other schools, about 600 schools, that have been part of this experimental work that I do, if you like, research work, in how to improve board results and results in general without increasing stress of the children. In fact, with far less stress than we can imagine. So this is CMS in particular, but the principles are universal. So one of the things we say, set yourself a goal. So last year we had so many 90%ers, we had so much of average percentage of marks. What is our goal for this coming year? So without that goal, the targets are not set. Einstein, he said, it's insane to believe that you can achieve a different result or a better result by doing the same thing as you did the previous year. It's insanity to believe that you cannot. Now I have a person here smiling because I've used this slide once or twice before, but it's a really important one. Okay, so takeaway one from the insanity point of view is to do things differently and do different things. So we can agree that if you've been doing things in a certain way, we need to probe ourselves and think, how can we do things differently and do different things? And that's your takeaway one. So what did we do last year? How are we going to change practice today? And then what will we change our practice in the future? So we will roll out a plan, say 3 years, 5 years plan ahead of us, because not all changes can be happening always simultaneously. Believing differently, doing differently, asking impossible questions, like, can all our children get 90% and above, not just a few? Takeaway two is that we have to create spaces for change. So what that means is that if you want a certain outcome, for example, in terms of reducing stress or using a different language, as we've been talking about, or we are talking about, let's say, dignity of labor, introducing that in our classrooms so children learn about this very profound principle of dignity of labor, we need to create space for it. We want professional development. We can't just expect it. 3 days in a year is not enough. 6 days a year is not enough. Ad hoc training is not enough. And we need to create space for more profound, regular training of our teachers. And as the previous presenter, Archana Gaur ma'am mentioned, that the best way to train is through action research. So our teachers should be engaged in ongoing action research, and here's something along from Jaya, from Singapore, is absolutely the way to train them rather than to train them in any kind of other way. Takeaway 3 is use evidence, not hunches. Now, I'm going to give you a survey to do immediately following my presentation, which is going to be your homework. Do it at ease over the course of this day, and by the end of the day, I hope after the parallel sessions, I'll have enough data to share with you as to what you all said. Not individually, I won't have the data with me. That will be only with you, your diagnostic reports. But I will be able to give you in bulk what everybody thought and how your hunches as a group matched your evidence, the worldwide evidence. So what is a hunch? What is evidence? Hunch is what we believe, what we feel, what we've heard, what we like, or somebody else is doing something, and we say, oh, I really love it, I'm going to do it. For example, I love Montessori, I'm going to do that. And the others, I love Waldorf, and they're at odd ends sometimes, because in Waldorf you don't teach till age 7 any kind of cognitive skills, and Montessori is all based on cognitive skills. So which is better? Do we do phonics? Do we do a whole language? And all this is a hunch. We feel this is good. Do we do ability grouping or don't we do ability groupings? Again, these are hunches. And then what's the evidence? So I look at John Hattie's meta-analyses. He has done 20 plus years of work meticulously documenting every single research work that he could chance upon. That's 80,000 of researchers in the English-speaking world. And he's done the world's largest meta-analyses to show us 252 factors, of which we can use the few that he has come out with to be the most powerful influences on learning. So what makes learning greatest? We have to learn from his meta-analysis and look to research, because we can repeat our own research, and many of our teachers, in fact not many, all of our teachers of City International School Indiranagar branch have been doing this for 3 years. Every single year they've done action research, every single teacher, and that's all out here, as Archana ma'am has already pointed out. Please do entertain yourself a little bit and see what kind of research is. These very, very similar teachers as you might have, who don't want to touch the internet, the PPT, who have technically a lot of hang-ups, who don't know what research is, what research design is. They're all doing research and doing fantastic research. Okay, so what is hunch? Now, 4 questions are here. Just make up your mind quickly. Feedback. What is the most important? Just one thing that you think is the most important in improving your board results. And one of the things that's most detrimental in improving board results. Have you made up your mind? Don't need to tell me. Just keep it to yourselves, and I'll show you the result, okay? Next is result. Number 1 is feedback. In this list of 4, there are many more, 252 factors. Okay, this will give you an inkling. Feedback has 0.77 effect size, number 10 out of 252. That's pretty high up in terms of impact on learning. And do we know feedback? Do our teachers do feedback? Big question marks. And then what's really, really bad is grouping students by ability. So your 4 questions I've spoiled already out of 40 that you'll get in the app, because you'll know the answers to these 4. So were your hunches reliable? Say yes or no. Were your hunches reliable? Yes. How many? Please raise your hands. Were your hunches wrong? Please raise your hands. Okay. Well, you'll get your own diagnosis in a little while. We need to seek evidence or create our own evidence. एक तो existing evidence है या हम कुछ create कर रहे हैं. Takeaway 4 is what we call the ipsative. So we're saying mainstream the ipsative, or I versus I, me versus me. And this is going to profoundly change the outcome. This is not on Hattie's list. There's separate research for this, and the reason why it's not on Hattie's list is because it's very recent research. And it's very little research that has been done, but it's a very conclusive research that has been done. And now it's featured in 2017 in a book called Ipsative Assessment and Personal Learning Gain. I'll just show you an image of that book, in which it is featured by Professor Gwyneth Hughes. And in that, though she's referring mostly to university education, there's one chapter that is on the principle of competing with yourself, and this is based on my work in Iceland, UK, and India, in 3 countries, that shows that when children compete with themselves, there is a better outcome, better result, and of course less stress. So which causes greater stress, do you think? Competition with others or competition with self? Okay, some of you said self, I think. Which causes greater stress? With others. And which causes better results or produces better results? Competition with self. This is our hunch. It was my hunch in 2000. And then I invited Professor Howard Gardner to Iceland when I was doing this research work. I invited 20 top educators of the world to Iceland to have a probing into this research work that I was involved in with Icelandic schools, then UK schools and Indian schools. And 3 schools, I think some of them might be here, that have participated, one in Banaras, one in Guwahati, and one in Goa. The 3 schools that participated initially in the research, and then City Montessori School, and now 600 other schools across the country in 20 states and in Nepal are trying this out. Support is necessary to reduce stress because stress happens when demand is greater than resources. Our personal resources, demand is too high. So they need a lot of support. What causes stress? Expectations of adults, systems examinations, and stress leads to destructive behavior, obsession with grades, health issues, suicidal tendencies. This is all real and happening. Assessments. So 5 ipsative practices that I'll discuss with you. Please, you may make a mental note. Assessments is something we deal with squarely. Motivation, support, progress, there is emphasis on progress and effort, and then raising of expectations, which is really one of the highest ways in which you can improve children's own expectations of themselves and produce better results. So ipsative process 1 is emphasize effort, not marks. How many of us emphasize marks? Marks nahi laye, marks karne hain. Anybody guilty of emphasizing marks here? Nobody. Just one CMS principal. Okay. Well, hats off to all of you then, because we should not emphasize marks. We should emphasize effort. We should document effort. Now, how do you document effort? Because we say effort, it's not going to happen. That will become equivalent to marks. We have to help children understand what is effort and put in the effort. And effort requires one of the prerequisites we'll share in a minute. So first is emphasize effort, not marks. So we ask the question after every test, and tests should be frequent, feedback should be real and real time and continuous. And there should be immediate corrective action, as also the presenters from Singapore said yesterday. You can't just give feedback and not do corrective action. So it has most impact if it's followed by corrective action. So the questions we ask after each test is, did you put in your best effort? So we can ask that from Roshan. He's sitting right here, Roshan, the strategy director of City Montessori School, Mr. Roshan Gandhi. He's my nephew. And he has always been a topper. So I say, don't go near my children. Because toppers cannot guide children. They think it's so easy. Well, it ain't so easy for those who are struggling, So, and you make it really difficult for them. So don't go near my children. But Roshan is going to speak to you a little later because he has lots of other wonderful things to share. And he has been guiding me, and he's an amazing young person. So, but the fact is that I was with him in Cambridge. He's actually from England. He's just recently come to India. He grew up there, born there and everything. And scholarship holder at Oxford University. He always aced everything. I'm sitting in my sister Neeta's home in Cambridge. And Roshan says, oh, Mama, tomorrow I have a competition in mathematics, an Olympiad, in which all of Cambridgeshire schools are participating, or something of that nature. And Neeta did a flip. She said, Roshan, why didn't you tell me this earlier? Shouldn't you have been working and practicing? He said, Mama, why do you worry? You know I'll ace it. Is that the right answer? He's not putting in the effort. Can he do better? Even though he's acing it? Obviously. So what are these aces? Top 1/3 of the children are losing time, are not being addressed properly in our system, neither the bottom 1/3. Only the middle maybe, and that also God knows how many. So we're losing a whole bunch of them. They're just twiddling their thumb and sitting on their successes. I said, Roshan, come, sit with me. I looked for books. Immediately I found a few books and said, Roshan, read with me. We're going to prepare for tomorrow. And he just laughed, sat down, sort of half irritated. I'm being forced to do something. And next day he aced it. So, I don't like kids like that. Okay? They don't like effort. His father is the most genius man I know, and sort of the combination of his Indian wife, my sister, and he from Iran. They produce this magical person. All right. Okay, so the next question we ask, first, did you put in your best effort? Second, could you have done any better? Roshan, could you have done that Olympiad any better? He came top. See, that's a wrong answer. Wrong answer. If you got any one question wrong, you could have done better. And even the paper may have been too easy for you, okay? So you could have done better. Okay, so if so, what next will you do? I'll prepare that one question. Much more than that, in fact, for weaker children. No, sorry, not the right terminology. Not calling any child weak or strong. We're going to call them less prepared today. Tomorrow you'll be better prepared. You'll do better. So that terminology, weaker student and stronger student, has to go. So I'm going to beliefs. We believe some can get 90%, others will get less than 90%. That's really a terrible way to think. Then here's a way we document effort, and we've done this at so many schools now. So basically, students have an effort log. So they write down question-wise what it is they did not do so well in, and what they need to do in order to fix it. So you can think of it as targets, but it's like holding the pulse in your hands. So it is as precise as every single question, and their own self-analysis, which engages them very critically with what they've just done. So they can answer the question, what next? And then the teacher gets a teacher report and goes into solving for the class as a whole the things that did not go so well. When a teacher doesn't teach well, how can you blame the children you've not done well? Half the things, 1/3 of the things often the teachers got wrong. And teacher has not taught well. The children, 1/3 of them, 1/3 of the questions they cannot answer correctly. Would the children be blamed who have done 2/3 correctly, or would the teacher be blamed when the children have not done 1/3 correctly? Obviously the teacher. He or she has not done a really good job. Now he goes back and corrects for it. He or she. Then there's a process of perfection. You'll hear about it on and off from us. The process of perfection also includes what we call task cards, or you can think of it as smart revision cards, which are pressing on the pain points of the child, and he or she makes those task cards, the question on one side, and its solution or tips or bullet points or keywords on the other side. And these task cards, they revise in what we call spaced repetition. All of you have in your bag 10 cool keys to success in examinations that I make every year and revise and give to children of City Montessori School and now well beyond. Everyone gets it across the country. You're welcome to use it in your schools. People put them up. They have workshops with the children on it. There are videos on it on the net. And I'm happy to send somebody to help you implement that 10 cool keys. In that, we show you spaced repetition, or the children learn about spaced repetition, how that the doctors and the medical students learn so many terminologies, and they can do it so much more easily when they do spaced repetition than the rote learning, jo hum karte hain ratta lagana, you know what that is. Okay. So then we do a past paper as a pre-test, not as a determining test. So always every test is a pre-test first, and then we do a post-test after the perfection is done or the valley has been filled between the two tests. Then children peer check each other's work. There's a whole process around it. Then we compare the pre-test and post-test. You can see the difference. The children color code their own questions. So here it goes a lot more orange to a lot more green and blue. Do you see the color change between the pre-test and post-test? Okay. Then children also check on their own progress through one test to the next. What is really important is that change must happen quickly. This is 3 days. If the change happens between half yearly and annual, it's not going to motivate the child. Change has to happen quickly. 1 day, 1 hour. And we've done experimental work to show that, yes, the child sees I've gained 7 marks, 9 marks in just 1 hour, because of certain learning techniques that I've used. And this is magical because it improves their belief in their own ability to do better. So we compare, before and after data. The teachers do their own tallies. We look at it as a class as a whole, the baseline versus the progress survey. Progress doesn't mean the glass is full. There's still empty blank areas, but the teacher knows where to focus. And progress is real. It creates intrinsic motivation in all children, and there's full strength. We found that around pre-board time, that we lose a lot of children. They say, "Ghar pe baith ke padhenge," we'll study at home. right? But the reality is they don't study as much. They'd rather be at school. We've collected data to show at a macro level that when they're in school, they're learning more. But if you do ipsative, we find strength is full because they realize every day that they do this, they're gaining marks and they see the real marks gain. And this is really critical and critically engaging the psychology. Then, anyway, I think I'll go quickly because I see Shushmita looking at me. So next point is motivating every child. And that is critical because we feel, homework diya hai, nahi karke laya. It happened with my son. He was here yesterday playing the drums. You know, he has not brought his homework. Not a single teacher asked, Robert, what happened? Why did you not bring the homework? You're a bad boy. You didn't bring your homework, right? That's the implication. He didn't know that Roshan's mom had come the night before last, or that night, and we were meeting together for the first time, and that he was forced to go into a family gathering. Now, the teacher doesn't give you the chance to speak. They just assume that you're just not good enough. And as parent, I feel the pain points, and I think we all should, as teachers and principals, really focus on motivating. And along with motivation, this is a very, very good book. If you can please have a look at it. Punished by Rewards by Alfie Kohn. Alfie Kohn was another speaker at this conference about 4 years ago. And he's the greatest challenger of status quo in education. He is my favorite author. Please do read him. Punished by Rewards. He says rewards like chocolate denge, pencil denge, and we'll give you stars, we'll give you certificates, we'll give you smileys. I mean, all this has to go out of the door. This is total extrinsic motivation. We need to create intrinsic motivation. And no rewards, no punishment should be the way. Only the language of encouragement, not praise. Praise, like, oh, you are so smart, creates fixed mindset. Praise spoils you. Like, I hope Roshan has not got spoiled, but, has a chance. Okay, so I am the Masi that challenges him. Okay, so how would you convert these statements and self-suggestions to positive? I'm dumb. A lot of kids feel, oh, my system has told me I'm dumb. I'm always getting 40% below. I'm dumb. I'm going to live this reality for the rest of my life. This should never be told to a child in marks or in any other form. I want to quit. A lot of kids feel that, especially around exam time. Please, I just can't handle it. This is too difficult. I hate when I'm corrected by anybody. Fixed mindsets again. I will never get this. Okay? So how do you convert that? I am so dumb, cross it out. Have the children write it down, whatever they feel, write it down, and have them cross it out and write a more affirming statement to themselves. Converting the negatives to positives is perhaps the most important way that we can help our children succeed more in examinations and less stress. I want to quit. I have other strategies I haven't tried yet. I can try this. Teachers are there. They should be supporting them in believing in all this. This is too difficult. I can do difficult things. I hate when I'm corrected. Feedback helps me improve. Practice 3, support for progress. So, here's a child says, I need a teacher who supports me in my success instead of just expect success. You give me lots of homework, you give me lots of tests, you tell me I'm not good enough. Who's there to support me saying, look, I'm holding your hands, I'm here to sit with you and help you improve this. Don't give up, I'm there for you. I know you can. And the teacher says, the child says, I like a teacher who says, I can. Practice 4, focus on effort and progress. So we give you all sorts of data. You're good in so many things. We start with the good, glass half full. Then we go to the next and the next. And the last one, we don't say difficult, we say not yet, which is, again, learning from a lot of good research work in the West, especially of Carol Dweck, her book on mindset, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then teacher also gets to know green, my class is good in these topics, my class is blue, somewhat good in these topics, not as good as green. And these are orange areas, I use orange rather than red, orange areas in which I have to fix my class, I really didn't do a good enough job. And topic-wise, topic-wise again for each section, for the whole branch. Then child-wise, topics, subjects rather, each child is good and struggling with, and so forth. And then practice 5, which is to raise expectations. And this is really, really critical. So here, like a child, a very, very weak child, Ravi Prakash, less prepared child, in one of our branches, RDSO, class 12, and he was at the point of giving up. And I took this to him, and he had at that time a test, 17 out of 42 correct. He had 37% average. And after the ipsative process, he got a much better result. He got 91%. He gained 54% marks. The same child, they were sitting in the back of the room, and I still remember this little chap, and he could prove to himself he's not a 40%er, he's a 90%er. Can that happen, guys? And this is real. We have told our children for so long they can't do it, they just believe they can't do it. So raising expectation is very, very important. Ronald Ferguson, he has said a teacher's expectations, either high or low expectations, become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Students perform in ways that teachers expect. Okay, here's the data. Is there any research? We started in 2016, the first year. We got like the target group, which I call the Target Plus group because we have, this as a Target Plus initiative. And those in the target group, you can see even the lower bands of 0 to 20 percenters, 20 to 40 percenters, and 40 to 60 percenters. We had 1, 3, and 19 students that got 90% and above, while in the control group, kids from the same classes that chose not to do the ipsative, they got 0, 0, and 5. So you can see a whopping number in the bottom end. And overall also, out of 148, 78 children in the Target Plus group, that's the ipsative group, got marks above 90%, that's 53% of them. And in the control group, just 24%, that is roughly half. Statistical data in all categories, the children did very well on the average mark as well, and the improvement was phenomenal. This can't be a coincidence. Okay, the first year we did it, 3 children topped in the entire country. They came rank 1 out of 6 children in the country in class 12 that got 90%, that got rank 1, national rank number 1. 6 students got it. Of the 6, 3 were students that took the ipsative. Is that a coincidence? Cannot be. It has to be ipsative. Okay? They were not from the same family, they were not with the same teacher, but they did what was same for them is ipsative. And not just that, you see the bulk of children, 51% of them got marks above 90%, and the bulk of them came from the middle and the bottom. We think the toppers will get the 90%, don't we? You see, the majority of the kids, talking about numbers of children, and this is huge volumes of children, so you can see how data pans out. Because with VLS it's hard to tell. But this is exactly the data from this research work. And here's the book. It's called Ipsative Assessment and Personal Learning Gain by Professor Gwyneth Hughes. It's available on the net. You can download one chapter or the whole book. Okay, then spaces, present versus ipsative. Well, I think you can see and tell for yourself a lot of things are different. I'm not going to say. This is the final set of slides. I pledge, can we please try to say this? I pledge to never compare children that are in my care. I pledge to never compare children that are in my care. I believe all children can do better. I believe most can get 90% plus. Big numbers of our 90%ers come from the middle, not the top. I believe we need to do different things and do things differently. I believe we need to create spaces for change. I believe we need to use evidence, not hunches. I believe I can mainstream the 5 mantras of the ipsative. Effort, not marks. Motivation, support, celebration of progress, and raising of expectations. So I invite you to go to your hunches versus evidence survey. Here is the way to connect to the internet in case your mobiles are not connected for any reason on the data, mobile data. So you can go to this. And we'll show it to you in a minute again. This is the site you need to go into to access that survey, the hunches versus evidence survey. There are 40 questions. You read a question like boredom, read what does it mean by boredom, and then answer A, B, C, D, or E. You go to the bottom of it after you've answered all 40, and you will get to write down your name, your organization. Please make sure all of you from the same organization write your organization the exact same way, otherwise it will come up as more than one institution. And you'll get very rich data about what you just did at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita, for that wonderful presentation. So, in the paradigm shift that we discussed and was presented by all the speakers, we moved from joyful education to language of virtues and the actual play of these forces and innovative techniques at Sinti International School, and finally, a paradigm shift in assessment patterns, which have been implemented at City Montessori School, some of the campuses, and have seen spectacular results. So I think we are already running 5 minutes late. So do we take any questions? We take questions now. I think there were some questions with the help desk there. So we could begin with those questions. And in addition, any other questions could be added to them. Yeah. But if it's addressed. Yeah, we have a question addressed to Ms. Mariam by Samir Adhami, Mother Mariam Global School, UP. If the teacher says that if all students complete their work in this given period, you all will go for an extended games period or get a candy, does this approach help or not?
Well, thank you, Samir, for the question. I think it's helpful that we receive this question now after hearing the bit that Sunita had to share about extrinsic rewards. I don't know if you want to speak on that. I mean, as far as it relates to the language of the virtues, I would encourage, rather than incentivizing kids for good behavior with games, to incentivize them with good behavior with encouraging language using the virtues as we spoke about. So for example, if you're trying to get them to complete their work in a timely manner, you can call them to self-discipline. So you can say, please demonstrate self-discipline in completing your work in a timely manner. And then as we spoke about before, calling them to that virtue in order to do that does far more than simply asking them to do their work fast. So you could call them to self-discipline. You can call them to respect or to cooperation if they're doing group work. Sunita, I don't know if you specifically want to speak on extrinsic rewards and why it wouldn't work, why it wouldn't get children to complete their work in a timely manner, and perhaps how to intrinsically motivate them instead.
How do we train a dog? Do we train our children the same way, or should we? Okay, I've answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Could you all, yeah, please stand up and ask your questions. Do we have a cordless mic going around? Stella, you can start your question.
Hello.
Meanwhile. Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am. I have a question to Miss Mariam. Actually, I'm pretty impressed by your project, and I want to start this project in my school. So can you help me in this?
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. It's not my project. Unfortunately, I can't take the credit for it. It's the Virtues Project, and it was founded about 30 years ago by 3 folks who were experts in education. I believe it was 2 former teachers and a child psychologist. They were the ones who created it. They created the methodology. They created 5 strategies that would work to improve the classrooms. We spoke on 1, which was the language of the virtues. I would encourage you, if you are interested in learning more, we can definitely connect. There's a number of resources that you can access for free online. If you look up the Virtues Project, you'll very easily be able to find the website, and they have a number of free resources on there. For example, they have something called the Virtues Cards. And you can access those for free online. You can also order physical cards, but they're basically index cards, size cards that have virtues listed on them with descriptions of the virtues. If you flip them over, you'll have the practice of the virtues. So for example, we've spoken a lot about the virtue of respect. So it gives an explanation of respect using language that children can easily understand, and then lines out specific practices. And you can use those with the children. So that's one resource you can find online. There's a book called The Virtues Project Educator's Guide. I think it's a little bit pricey because it's priced in US dollars, and so when you convert it to rupees, it's quite expensive. But I would highly recommend it as a resource for your school. You can get one and use it for your entire school and share it amongst the teachers. And that gives you lesson plans on the virtues. So rather than just using the language of virtues, you also have lessons. You have games that you're playing with them that help the younger kids, especially with deepening in their understanding of the virtues. You have, again, descriptions of the virtues. You have stories that go along with it. And then the third that I would recommend, the woman who came to CMS, who I spoke about, Dara Feldman, who began the project, she has a book called The Heart of Education. And that, I think, is more inexpensive than the Virtues Project Educator's Guide, and it outlines really wonderfully and really helpfully the 5 strategies of the Virtues Project, and it's supplemented by experience that Dara has had using the Virtues Project around the world. So I guess 3 things then. 1, the Virtues Project website. It'll have the Virtues Project cards as well as different resources that you can find. 2nd would be the Virtues Project Educator's Guide, which is a book that you can order. And then the 3rd is The Heart of Education by Dara Feldman. And if it's helpful, I'm happy to connect during the tea break too.
Thank you, Mariam.
Yeah,
there's a
my question. I noticed that a lot of data is collected when we are assessing before and after performances. Is there any apps created for us to facilitate this data collection? Because I noticed that nowadays we have a lot of apps and they come in very useful. Will they help?
Okay, I do believe you're right. Next phase is the app, and we've developed an app. It took us 2 years to develop the app. There's no assessment in the world based, and you would know about this more than me because you're in the center stage of a lot of innovation in Singapore. There's no assessment based on the principle of compete with yourself. And so this is the only one. And we've just recently concluded a trial of the app, though we've done it in a physical form, as you saw. But the app itself, we just recently trialed it. And now we're going to implement it in this coming week at some of the branches of City Montessori School. The trial took place in City International School, Indanagar, and we've seen quite a bit of improvement in the children over a period of 10 days or so of the entire process. So yeah, it's working well, it's very easy. The children don't have to have a mobile, which is something of a scare. In CMS when we did it 2 years ago, we said bring your mobiles, and they went wacko. And so the parents went crazy, everybody went crazy, so we said no mobiles. Then last year we did it in this physical form that you saw. Some of it was from last year. And this year, we're going entirely on a teacher mobile. So the teacher will scan the equivalent of OMR sheets, but these are not OMR sheets A, B, C, D as in choices. These actually carry numbers of the mark allocated. So this is a unique way. And immediately you'll get the feedback, which has to be instant. Even in the physical process, we were doing instant feedback through peer checking and so forth. Process was there. This will be even quicker. And then the teacher can focus on correcting what was not done so well by the teacher. Children get their own personal feedback. They can correct what they did not do. And then what comes really most importantly is the next test. And they can witness the improvement. That's the progress that feeds their self-expectation. So.
I have a question. You know what happened when my son secured quite less marks in history, while he secured very good marks in other subjects. So what my husband said, the father said to my son, that you know, why are you unhappy? You try a little more. If you have scored high marks in so many other subjects, you can also score here also. So instead of comparing him to other children, he emphasized that if you could get more marks in so many other subjects, if you try a little more, you can get here also. I think it is a sort of upset, or not?
I say this is squarely the opposite. The teachers sometimes forget that, and we forget that, and I think that's where the problem comes, because anytime we feed a negative thought process in a child's mind and compare them to others, they lose hope. And this is really the most amazing damage we can do to a child. So, Mother, I want to say in front of all of the participants here that everything I know I've learned from you.
Oh my God.
Everything. I've just gone and put data in it. That's all.
But still I have to learn more about IPSET. Whenever I see on boards in Lucknow, in so many, hoardings, they have written IPSET school. City Montessori school, IPSET school. Springdale school, IPSET school. I don't know who did it. All over Lucknow they put that. So I couldn't understand what is this IPSET. Only today I could get the knowledge that IPSET means compare to yourself, not compare to the other child.
Yes.
Comparing, but the whole education system is based on comparison.
Yes,
Because
with
our
others.
board examination, our class teacher
Yes.
attitude, our parents' attitude all the time, बगल के बच्चे ने ज़्यादा नंबर पाए, तुमने क्यों नंबर पाए? तुम्हारी बहन ने ज़्यादा नंबर पाए, तुमने कमती नंबर क्यों पाए? It is so damaging all the time, comparison. Today we should learn, I'm talking to my colleagues, hearty talk, that we should never compare children. We always do it. All the teachers do it. Why you can't get it while he has got it? Why your sister is getting so many marks? Why can't you get it? So this comparison, I think one message we take from you, that we should avoid comparison at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We just love your spirit and the way you're always learning and inspiring us.
You see, we in India, in most of the Indian schools, may it be a government school or a public school or a school which is recognized or not recognized, the problem is with senior students. The students who have spent a lot of their time in school, but at the end, when they are senior students, say in 12th class, they tend to show a behavior of ignorance and non-caring attitude. I think most of us face this problem as head of the school or director in every school. Now, this is my question to Ms. Mariam, that what will you suggest as per your virtues, because India needs virtues very much. Kindly help us out with that. It will be a great help to most of my young friends here. Please.
So is the question, you're saying that when you have, for example, students in class 10 or class 11, class 12, they start acting out, that they're either indifferent or they're not caring or they're not as obedient towards their teacher. It's this sort of problem. And how do you use the language of the virtues to help with that? Well, I think this is the hard part, right? Because what I spoke about mostly was how you use the language of virtues when it's very easy, when the kids are behaving. You just have to think about the virtue that they're demonstrating. So for example, we talked about generosity. If a student is sharing their colors, you just have to recognize that that's the virtue of generosity and say, thank you for being so generous with your fellow classmate, sharing your colors. It's easier then. It's much more challenging when it comes to correctives. The Virtues Project, the assumption underlying it is essentially that all of us have these virtues within us, latent capacity, right? We all are able to demonstrate these virtues. We're all born with these virtues inside of us as gems. And the job of an educator, and the job of us towards one another, and the job of parents is to help draw out these virtues. So that extends to the language that we use to correct. So one thing I think as an educator to keep in mind is that these students do have these virtues in them. Just because they're not demonstrating them does not mean that they're a bad kid, right? It means that they're simply not at that moment demonstrating it, that you need to support them in bringing the particular virtue out. So the language of virtue is the correction side of it. You could ask them, you know, what virtue are you missing? Are you feeling impatient? Are you feeling unhappy? Are you not feeling joyful? These sorts of things, work with them to help them understand what exactly is missing. You know, there was one example on a campus, and there was a student acting out, and the reason for that was because they thought the only thing that was important was their marks. They weren't getting good marks, therefore they didn't feel they were a valuable student. So what the teacher then did was they made sure in the future to encourage them using the language of virtues whenever they were being determined, whenever they were persevering through a subject that was difficult for them. You know, the examples from before I think still apply. Thank you for your determination working so hard through something. So if you extend this to class 10, where you have many more behavior issues, perhaps it's a matter of using this corrective language with more students, right? You're asking more students, please be disciplined, please be orderly, how can I help you, what virtue do you need to call on? And then recognizing what's missing, using the encouraging language moving forward also. Thank you for your determination, thank you for your cooperation, thank you for persevering or for enduring through this. Is that helpful? I mean, I don't know, because as you said, I am a young educator, so there's still a lot that I'm learning, but so far from what I've seen in Indian education, I think this would be the best strategy. I don't know if anyone else has any other insights with all your years more of experience than what I have, but I think that might be a good start.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I have one question.
Ma'am, where are you?
Yeah.
That's the last question, please. We are
I
already
think that we have a
very
gentleman
late.
here.
I've been trying to ask one question if I get the chance.
Sir, please be considerate of the woman who has been trying to ask her question and give her the chance to ask her question. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, where is should we get this last question from this woman, or should we do it during the tea break?
I think she could meet you later. And
Sure, where are you? So I'm sure that
we are just coming
I don't
down,
lose you.
and any of the speakers whom you want to ask a question to.
I just want to have one thing, just want to ask you one thing, rather say, because I'm a researcher myself, Ms. Mariam. When we talk about the moral things, which we're talking about open-ended questions, that is a qualitative data. And when you give the rating scales, it's a quantification of the data. So these two things, how do you cooperate?
Could we get off the
maybe later?
Stage and no, she'll just address it.
Sure, let's meet should I do it now or during the tea break?
As you go down, you can do it. After you go down, that is.
So I walk and talk.
Yeah. Because we want to rearrange the stage for the next session. Thank you so much, all of y'all, for the wonderful discussion that we had and your wonderful interactions that you all had with Sunita Didi mainly, and with the rest of them, and of course with the audience. I know we couldn't take many of your questions, but all the speakers are moving down. You can interact with them today, tomorrow, whenever you find the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was lovely to hear from all our honorable speakers here in the panel about the virtues and how important it is to put them into practice, and about Bala, building as the learning aid, how impactful and practical we can make our teaching learning process through Bala. How important it is to give our kids a pleasant experience, giving them a reason to come to school every day, stress-free. How vital it is to observe each single child beyond perfection. Ladies and gentlemen, today's urgent requirement is to refresh and update our curriculum and ease out on our assessment techniques. We proceed further in our sessions today, and very quickly I would like to invite on stage Mr. Tom Delaney, who is working for a very noble cause and is working with the underprivileged children living in slum areas. He's working with the literacy program run by Devi Institute, and it is running in around 250 schools in the city, and we wish to replicate this in the other cities as well. Maximum kids that are involved through this program are building up a very strong character, as the virtues that got discussed in the discussion right now are getting inculcated through various programs that are taken up by him. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage Mr. Tom Delaney.
Just before Mr. Tom comes to speak here, I want you all to give a big round of applause for Dr. Jagdish Gandhi, who's with us. Sir, our most respected, most honored Dr. Gandhi is here. And I just want to add a word, because since yesterday, last day, many of the delegates asked me कि आप इतनी ऐसे आप तारीफ़ कर रही हैं क्यों गांधी जी की, मतलब इतना क्यों तारीफ़ कर रही हैं, या कई लोगों ने मेरे से पूछा ऐसा क्या ख़ास है कि आप मतलब आप उनकी बात कर रहे हैं, आप कह रहे हैं उनको बहुत विजनरी हैं और ऐसे हैं, क्योंकि कुछ लोग, आई एम नॉट सेइंग मैनी ऑफ ऑलरेडी नो सर, जब वो कहते हैं कि आप इतने कन्विक्शन से कैसे कह सकती हैं कि वो, मैंने कहा वो कन्विक्शन मैं नहीं बता रही हूँ, आई एम नोबडी, आई एम जस्ट अ मिनिस्क्यूल लिटिल माइक्रो पर्सन हियर जो उनके बारे में कुछ कह भी सकते हैं. द रीज़न बीइंग आई गेट सम जिटर्स व्हेन आई स्पीक, व्हेन आई लुक एट हिम, व्हेन आई पर्सनली गेट ऑल दैट इंस्पिरेशन, दैट व्हाट कन्विक्शन, व्हाट पैशन, what compassion and what humility. I have no words to continue also to carry on with the thing, the kind of feeling, the kind of passion with which he works. It is so infectious, it is so touching. कि सर कहीं पे भी भीड़ में भी मिलेंगे और हम कुछ भी नहीं हैं तो भी बोलेंगे दीदी आप बैठिए पहले, और वो खड़े हो जाएंगे. ये कोई बहुत अलग कैटेगरी, बिल्कुल अलग है. So I am nobody to praise, so let's give a big hand and we will definitely listen to Sir very soon. Thank you so much, and I am personally very proud to be a part of this whole organization. Tom, now over to you.